Very happy to be here. This project actually, as mentioned by Jeremy, is in the context of the Singapore Pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale, which is still on display until end of this month. The title is called Neural Palette Gui for a reason. So neural actually refers to deep neural networks, and therefore the generative process was based on AI. And palette is the idea of this gastronomic aspect of food and whether that could be transferred to the thinking and making of architecture. And Kueh is this local dessert in Singapore, traditional dessert. And therefore, in the case of Singapore Pavilion, it was really this metaphor of, if you've been to the pavilion, is this dining table with food, but actually the dining tables is like the city. The food, they are actually the architecture. So let me just go more quickly. Obviously, this idea of this analogy between objects or food and city is already present back, when Aldo Rossi wrote about analogical architecture, where there are objects on the dining table on the table that serve as a way to think about his architecture. And also, this is Jeremy Till and Sarah Wickersworth, where dining process became a generative way to think about the floor plan. And also, Nigel Coates, highly inspirational early works using literally objects couvé, food objects in the display, rethinking about the city. So, going back, this idea of food, even plating itself is something that has some degree of architectural composition in it. So, for instance, on the left, the food; on the right, the architecture by Thomas Hedderwick. We already see this sort of analogy. In fact, analogy is something that play a major role in architectural thinking. If you even heard today's presentation by Tom Wiscombe, he talks about the Godzilla and as a way to enter his project, as a way to understand his Earth Protector project. So likewise, these are the Kueh that I mentioned in Singapore. So this is the actual display at the Biennale. This project is really far more conceptual than about building necessarily. So this is how they look like on this, social dining as participatory city planning, architecture as food. And these are 3D printed objects. Some of them may look familiar if you've ever been to Singapore. Some of them are quite iconic looking. Of course, we could generate the interior and exterior via AI systems. And so just some of the images. But I will quickly go to the video that would show the actual process. We also make some souvenirs for the curators at the Biennale, the trinkets looking ones. We also then, in the exhibition, we also displayed these generative videos that where the source is the actual dining, but the generation, what you see is the building landscape. So the food and the buildings that's been generated. So I'm going to run so the idea here is that you have the actual Kueh, and then you then generate the 3D printed objects as architectural models. This is a video about 2 minutes, I think. So we're using MLMs, multimodal large language models, as a way to sort of describe. So if you like, we ask the AI model to describe or decompose the food architecturally, and then using that as the basis to begin to generate the architecture without telling it necessarily what to generate. The only sort of hint is like, generate a Singapore architecture. But obviously, if you find on the internet lots of images of Marina Bay Sands, it's probably going to choose Marina Bay Sands based on its description. So for instance, this is the Esplanade. And there are predominantly two ways that we approach this generative process. One is where the human is very much in the loop, where it's almost iterating via prompts with the model, and then making changes also visually at on the image space. So there's sort of this human in the loop process, but after this is where we see that the human is less in the loop in the sense of iterating. So showing some iterative process. So in this second process is that basically you just prompt the model, and then you fine-tune the model with, in this case, the IP adapters and also control net. And then after that, you iterate just from seeing the output itself. So in this case, the human in the loop is in the sense that it fine-tune the model. And here we can also begin to generate interiors and then from there we generate multiple views, and then from the multiple views we generate the 3D objects, and then the 3D print files to be then printed. And then followed from here, we look at the urban scale. So as each of these objects represent, like the one in the middle actually looks like the Art Science Museum. We didn't actually prompt the model to generate Art Science Museum. It's just generated based on this particular quay that looks like an Art Science Museum. So in this second part, we use dining as a way to understand planning, whether having videos of local dining could serve as the basis to generate urban planning in the sense of urban design rather. And so here we basically have a local dining experience and then generate frame by frame, and then generate 3D point cloud to begin to see. At a certain point, you see the hands appearing when it's not supposed to. This is very interesting because even you have a negative prompt to say don't generate hands, it still generates hands. This is where it gets a bit uncanny and slippery, which I find it very interesting. So there are multiple projection mapping at the Biennale that show these dining experience as city planning. So just a few images showing some of the output. So unfortunately, we are not allowed to bring food and display it for like a few months in the Biennale. But actually, this is a project that's also with the a lab in SUTD, Singapore University of Technology and Design, where we've started already printing with starch, with different inks, Puri. Last part is this speculation. I know I have 1 minute. Speculation about whether architecture could be understood in more gastronomic sense, whether we could incorporate sense of sweetness, sense of bitterness, in the system. We did some EEG tests. This is a picture of my researcher. Also, whether they could have a very strong tactile aspect to them. And it was then presented 2 months ago or a month ago at the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, where we wrote a paper. This is some videos of how it actually looks like without the 3-point cloud. Yeah, thanks. This video will run like, maybe 10 more seconds or more. So if it's time for me to step down, I just end it. This is the last slide.